Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Hilsinger, and this is my informative speech practice. Did you know that according to the Dyslexia Center of Utah, 70 to 80% of people who have poor reading skills are likely dyslexic? While so many people struggle with dyslexia, for many it goes unrecognized in their childhood and later is misdiagnosed as ADD or ADHD due to acting out and inability to learn like everyone else. In my home growing up, I saw my brother struggle in school and in social environments because he wasn't like everyone else. Instead of paying attention in class, he drew pictures. He was a very gifted artist. However, when it came to reading, he was always angry, often towards other people, because it wasn't fun for him. It was very difficult. And luckily, my parents recognized it while he was young and strived to get him help. And eventually, they ended up putting me in a dyslexic reading class as well. In my study on dyslexia, I have learned that when a child's dyslexia goes unrecognized, it can lead to long-term learning struggles and blocks, and ultimately a fear of learning that can impact their adult life and limit their career development. My goal today is to inform as many people as I can about dyslexia and how we can help make a difference in someone's life starting in our own home. So a little about what dyslexia is. According to the Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity, dyslexia is an unexpected difficulty in reading in an individual who has the intelligence to be a much better reader. When we think about what reading is, it's very interesting. It's an association within our minds of the letters on the page and the sound they make, putting them together to make words, and then repeating that process to create sentences, paragraphs, and books. According to the Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity, people with dyslexia have trouble matching the letters they see on the page with the sounds those letters make in combination of the letters. And when they have trouble with that step, all the other steps are harder. And coming from firsthand experience, I can tell you that reading and spelling almost feels like a different language to someone who's dyslexic, especially at first. Dyslexia is not a lack of intelligence, but a problem in the brain that causes dyslexics to learn differently. For us, learning how to read and write can be very frustrating, but it doesn't mean that we aren't smart enough to do it. It just means that we have to learn differently. So many of the most intelligent people that have ever lived are dyslexic, and we're dyslexic. Pablo Picasso was dyslexic. Tom Cruise is dyslexic. Bill Gates, Steven Spielberg, and my favorite, Albert Einstein, was dyslexic. According to learninginfo.org, Albert Einstein failed to talk until he was 4 years of age, and he wasn't even able to read until he was 9. So this shows that dyslexia definitely is not a lack of intelligence. But dyslexia has been a known issue for a very long time. In 1877, a German neurologist named Adolf Kussmaul coined the term word blindness for those who struggle to read and write. In 1887, a German ophthalmologist named Rudolf Berlin first used the word dyslexia instead of word blindness. He combined the Greek words of dys, meaning poor, and lexia, meaning words, to make dyslexia, meaning difficulty with words. Though dyslexia has been a known issue, it wasn't until the year 2000 that research on dyslexia and ADHD actually started in our public schools. The No Child Left Behind Act was passed in 2001 and implemented in schools to hold them more accountable for the progress of children with learning disabilities. In 2002, Yale University used fMRI technology to show that people with dyslexia that their brains actually functioned differently when it came to reading. In 2005, Yale University identified a gene associated with dyslexia, meaning that it could be hereditary and passed down from generation to generation, which makes sense because in my family, my father is dyslexic, my brother is dyslexic, and I'm dyslexic. So it's obviously been passed down. In 2015, the No Child Left Behind Act was repealed and Congress replaced it with the Every Student Succeeds Act, which allowed states to set their own goals for the progress of learning disabled children and how they were going to do that within a certain framework that the government set up. So it allowed the school to take more action on helping those with learning disability. Now, having said that, and with all the research and tools that are being implemented within our public schools, we can make a difference in the lives of those close to us who may struggle silently with dyslexia, those who may not even know that they have dyslexia. According to the Dyslexia Center of Utah, 1 in 5 students, or 15 to 20% of the population, have a language disability, and dyslexia is the most common. Because of this struggle, and because of it going unnoticed, 62% of non-readers dropped out of high school. Left without early remedial intervention, dyslexic children may develop lifelong learning blocks, like was said earlier, causing them to actually fear learning and fail to progress and pursue further education. 20 to 25% of all adults can only read at the lowest level. They don't even read at a 12th grade reading level. They read at an elementary school level. So that's a huge problem looking forward in our country and in our homes and with our families. That will really limit us. But if these problems are addressed, we can make a difference for the rising generation. There are actually many things that we can do to help our children. There are several things that we can do in our own home to help our children who struggle with reading. For some kids, it's easier to remember words if we use pictures to help them learn. An artistic flair can sometimes engage the memory and help them to remember how to read and spell words. The more senses we engage, the better. So if we explain a word, show a word, have them write a word, give them a picture of what the word is describing, then they will likely remember that word. We can also explain the history of the word, where it comes from, why it is what it is. Like was said earlier, children with dyslexia and people with dyslexia in general aren't unintelligent. And many of them love learning and are very interested in learning. It's just a little more difficult for them when it comes to reading and writing. So as they learn the history of these words, they can better remember them and become excited about learning and decide to push through their struggles and become better. Ultimately, it takes a team of people to actually diagnose and continue the help of children with dyslexia. So it is encouraged that we include the teachers, involve their counselors, the principals, get the school involved if we discover that our child is struggling with reading, because then they can help to get your child the help that they need so that the programs that the school has can take effect and help your child overcome this roadblock and this struggle and help them be better prepared for a future. To summarize, it is important that you understand and help those that struggle with dyslexia. It's important that they know that it's not a lack of intelligence. It's important that they know that they're just as smart as everyone else. But it is also important for us to know that if we ignore this, it will become a problem in the future that can be avoided, and we can make a difference. I hope this information has helped some of you whose children may struggle with dyslexia, or who you yourself may have wondered why it is so difficult to learn and read. Our brains are just as intelligent as everyone else's. They just work differently.